Morning, Steve.
Morning.
And we're back in the UK.
Hi.
Home from home, terrible weather.
Yeah.
Everything's as it should be.
Apparently this is summer.
Yeah, this is summer now. This is a hot July.
Yeah, exactly.
But despite all that, we've had a lovely little park up, haven't we, Stephen?
Oh, it's lovely here.
By a lake, all these geese and ducks about, minding their own business. We had a rat running about, but it might have been a water vole. We still couldn't work it out. It kept going back and forth. It wasn't bothering anyone. And our first job is, we're going to bloody Tesco, aren't we?
We need petrol and we need to get water, because obviously in the UK you can't just get water. So we've got to buy some water and we've got to get some petrol and any shopping that we need, and then we are heading off.
What an exciting start to the video. We're going to the supermarket. I mean, we try not to buy bottled water, but sometimes we run out in the tank and we just need it to tide us over, and then we try and recycle the bottles afterwards. But yeah, usually we'll fill up the tank. It's just at the moment we're not sure where we're going to do that.
No, and I think we won't be anywhere near a site until near the end of the week when you have to do a video again. So
most likely, yeah.
We'll just have to manage until then.
Well, let's crack on to the supermarket. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
We've done our shop in Tesco and we're now in the Tesco car park having our breakfast. All the 5-star locations as always, Steve. So what's happened since we last saw you? Well, hopefully we kind of saw you last week. That depends if a video went out last week. We can never be sure. But if we did, obviously some time has passed between then and now. However, not as much as it might seem. So we came back to the UK and it's been a little bit eventful, let's just say. And we have been to work for a bit, which was supposed to be for a week, but was actually much less. So we've had some... How can we say, Steve? Should I let you explain?
Okay. So, we got back on Friday, and on Sunday afternoon, I got this really sudden headache, and it went from like 0 to 100 within seconds in the back of my head. It was really painful. It made me feel sick. It made me feel shaky. I couldn't sit still. And after about 10 minutes, I kind of thought, this really doesn't feel right at all. This isn't normal. So we went to the hospital. I went to A&E. By the time I got there, I was just trying to talk to the nurse and explain, but I couldn't speak properly.
You were shaking. It was awful. It was
I was just so overcome with emotion, I couldn't really talk properly. Anyway, so they whisked me in. I had a very quick CT scan, which came back as normal. So I thought, okay, I just got a headache. So we sat there most of the day, and then the doctor came to see me, and he said that basically, because of the nature of the headache, how it came on and those kind of symptoms, they was concerned that I'd had a subarachnoid hemorrhage, which sounded a bit like,
which sounds wonderful, doesn't it?
So he said, you know, it looks okay because you look okay. But so they wanted to do further tests, so I had to stay in hospital. I was in there for about 2 or 3 days. They did a lumbar puncture.
Yeah.
Thankfully, everything has come back normal, but it did mean that we kind of had to really think about what we're doing with like our own security outside van life, really, and our jobs. And yeah, so it was scary, but it was nothing, which I'm really grateful for. I have had headaches every day since, but apparently that's a side effect of a lumbar puncture. So now I'm just eating loads of fruit and vegetables and trying to look after myself a bit better.
Yeah. Did you mention the blood pressure?
Oh yeah, I think what they think it was is that my blood pressure was just kind of out of control. So they've put me on another blood pressure tablet. Yeah, so that's that really. Dramatic, but not dramatic, thankfully.
No, it could have been a lot worse, but it was really, really frightening. We managed to get a lift up to the hospital. It was a hospital near to where my mum was. We were visiting your sister the night before, because they all sort of live in the same area. Yeah, it was awful. Like, I saw him, I had to check him into A&E, and then he was bypassing. I couldn't see him for ages, and eventually I could go down, and we were sat in kind of like hell for a long time, weren't we? Sat on seats. There was little old ladies who were sat there for like 24 hours in chairs. I mean, the staff were always working, you know, it's nothing about that, but I haven't been to an A&E for a long time. You had, for different things, but it's like, it was an eye-opener, you know, and it was just really, you could see everybody was frustrated, and it was just like, it felt like there wasn't enough staff to deal with the amount coming in and the amount of stuff going on. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. Eventually you got your bed, didn't you? You got the lumbar puncture, which by the way is where they take spinal fluid, is it? To test for different things. So thankfully that's come back as nothing, and hopefully it is just blood pressure.
Which, by the way, they don't hurt. I always thought that they did, but lumbar punctures did not hurt.
They anaesthetise. I can't even say that word. Yeah. They do that.
That word.
So yeah, fast forward, we ended up skipping some of our work, which means we can't get paid and stuff, and that's okay because your health is more important. But the point is, what Stephen was saying, it's just made us a bit more aware of things and what happens with our future. We're not stopping van life, we hope, but look, there are some other things we are thinking about, but we'll kind of go into that later. Otherwise we're just going on a bit. But thankfully, the main thing is Stephen's okay. We did go to work for a bit, so we're now back in England after coming back, going to work for a little bit after things were okay again, and we are now driving to the north of the country, and we'll tell you why, even though we're not really sure why. Well, it's nice just to have a look around as much as anything. We've got some vague reasons as to why, but it's all a bit...
It's mostly what we just told you.
Yeah, but we haven't specifically said, have we? But thing is, we're not sure about anything. I'm not going to explain it anymore because we're kind of like, we don't really know what we're doing.
But part of the reason why we're going up when we're doing what we're doing, that's why we've told you what we just did.
So now, after all that, Steve's my little patient. I'd like to say I'd be more like Florence Nightingale, but it's probably going to be more like Annie Wilkes.
Aye.
But that's fine. We like misery anyway.
Indeed we do.
Right, it's late, even though it's still light. We've driven for miles and hours, haven't we?
Aye.
And we have just crossed into Scotland.
Aye.
Where are we, Stevie?
We're in, I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Howick.
Howick or Haywick? No, it must be Howick.
Howick. Haywick. Horwick.
Well, while we keep guessing, or actually find out somehow, we're going to settle down because we're very tired. We're going to put dinner on, and we'll explain why we've come up here tomorrow.
Aye.
Morning again, Stefan.
Morning.
So I think the first thing to address here is we've got it completely wrong. When we said we're in Horwick, or whatever we pronounced it as, it's actually pronounced Hoik.
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 Which sounds like something really unpleasant, but obviously it isn't. So we're back on home turf, kind of. Obviously it's Scotland, not England, but it's still the UK, and we're still mispronouncing things.
Yeah, well.
But you could never have guessed that from the spelling, could you?
No.
Hoik.
No. And I think, like, we've been to so many different places, like, there's no way you're going to know anything.
No. Still, we could have just Googled this one.
Before this, we didn't even know this place even existed, so, you know, we're doing one step better in that respect.
Whatever excuses you want to make.
Yeah, well, they're mine, I'll keep them.
We've actually found a free air, and this air is in the town we're in, called Hoik. I can't believe it. Like, you just don't think free airs exist, do you, in the UK?
No, so
but
much.
Here you go. There's one here. It's like, it's got pretty much everything except grey waste drainage, but it's got water. There's even toilets, and there's an Elson point, which is where you get rid of your toilet waste. So, and it's free to stay. So thank you to the town for that. That's very lovely. It's just a car park essentially, but I don't know. We just feel so happy we've actually found that. So yeah, that's a good start.
It's a good spot to stop and explore the borders, really, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's quite central to the borders, so if you want to go off and then come back, this seems like a good place to base yourself. The only thing is, I think we've parked in completely the wrong spot. There were lots of vans where we're parked in front of us and behind us yesterday evening, so we assumed this was all okay, and it has been. We slept really well, it was quiet enough, but I think the actual official spot for motorhomes is over there. So before we go and explore Hoik today, I think we're going to go and park ourselves over there, because I think that's the correct place to be. Quite a lot of charity shops here, so obviously we've come into one, and I do need a little jacket, so let's try this one on. light summer jacket. I had one like this years ago, do you remember? I don't know what happened to it. I don't know if it's going to fit though.
Yeah, it looks nice.
That's too big, isn't it?
I don't think so. Is it?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not feeling it. Never mind. We like a charity shop anyway, don't we? So it's all good fun.
Yeah.
Where's the hanger?
I don't know.
That's not bad for a fiver though. So anyone in the UK will know what a Farm Foods is. It's kind of like a budget supermarket, but I swear that's the first time I've ever seen one in a high street. Normally they're kind of on like retail estates or out of town, and they're larger shops. So that's the first time I've seen one in an actual main bit of the town. Maybe that's more regular in Scotland, I don't know. Not a very interesting fact, but thought I'd point it out. So over the years, Hawick has been very prone to bad flooding, and one of the reasons for that is because it's the meeting point of two rivers. So the River Teviot, I think it is, I can't remember which one this is, and also Slitrig Water. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but basically they're the two meeting points, so often it floods. Now, when we came here last night, this river was really low, wasn't it, Stephen? You could see the floor and everything, the bed, and it had been raining, and it's rained through the night and it's filled up pretty quickly. So obviously things around here are very changeable, and recently I think they've spent something like £92 million, or there's funding for that, to try and improve the flood defences, which I think is still ongoing. So there's a few reasons why we've come up here to the Scottish borders. Now there's two very simple reasons. One, since we finished work, we've got a gig we're going to up in, I think it's North Yorkshire, it's in Bridlington, and we've got a little bit of time before then, so we're going to see a band called Garbage. Don't know if you remember them from the 90s. They're still about, they still make music, and I used to really like them, I still do. So we're going to go and see them in Bridlington in a little while, but we thought, didn't we, while we were up here, we may as well drive up and explore somewhere, and the Scottish borders weren't too far. I mean, they're a little bit of a drive, but instead of driving all the way into Scotland, they're somewhere close by before we come back down to Bridlington. And we kind of thought, well, you know, the Scottish borders probably get bypassed, don't they? Everybody drives up to explore the other bits of Scotland, so we thought, let's go and see what they've got to offer.
Aye.
But there is another reason why we've come up this way as well. Why is that, Stephen?
Well, after the recent events, it's kind of brought home just how precarious van life really is.
Yeah.
Without anything else behind it. So we're looking to see if we can buy somewhere. Well, you know, we don't even know if we can get a mortgage with our jobs yet, but
yeah,
we're looking to see if we can buy somewhere, and obviously Kent is very, very expensive.
Yeah,
and some of it's a bit rough, to be honest. And it's like, I don't really mind that, but I'm not paying, you know, 100, 200,000, whatever it is for a tiny little flat somewhere. So
yeah, and we're allowed to say that because we've lived there. You know, we've lived there for years. We've grown up there.
It's overpriced, and actually a lot of it's quite deprived. Like, there's a lot of people with not a lot of things there.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not criticising that, but I'm just criticising the fact that it costs so much to live there.
In a place like that, yeah, we've grown up we've lived in places like Ramsgate, Margate, Thanet. It's extremely expensive, but you know, there's no reason for it. Just because it's southeast, that's all it is.
It's just not very good value for money,
no.
And we can't afford that anyway. So we thought we'd come up we'd look at the Scottish borders, and we're going to look at a few other places. But that's one of the reasons why we're up here, is to have a look around and see is this somewhere that we could get, that we could maybe settle later on, or just at least have
a base, isn't it?
Come and stay and just have a home again, really, just to help us out if one of us gets ill. Yep. But we'll see.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I'm not feeling Hawick as a possibility.
I mean, it's only the first place we've looked.
We just thought we'd have a look. There's nothing, this is all kind of like throwing darts blindly here. We're not actually, nothing's really serious. We just thought, let's just see. Let's just have a look, because it is a lot cheaper up here. Maybe we could get a mortgage up here, but, you know, would we want to live here? I don't know.
We'll have to see.
I'm not feeling this one though.
It's quite a way away from everything and everyone,
Yeah.
so it really has got to be a bit special.
It's got to be worth it, hasn't it, to drive all from our family and our work. But anyway, there's lots of if, buts and maybes and probably nots here, so we're just seeing how we go. But we thought we'd better explain, hadn't we, why, enough of the reasons, because it links into what happened to you and the fact we've always said we do want a base at some point. You know, we've always said this isn't forever, and the ideal scenario is that we can still have the van and have a base to go to every now and again, just to kind of stop things for a little bit. Or if something happens, like one of us got injured or really ill, like what the hell happens, you know? And we have got very limited, like in terms of our family, not being funny, but we haven't really got options in terms of places we can stay very easily, have we? I don't think. So yeah, we kind of got to think about those things for the future.
It's just about adding a bit of security, really.
Yeah.
You know, if our job ended, for example, then we'd be off the road. You know, there's so many things that could just stop everything.
Yeah.
That we need to try and invest in something that kind of gives us a little bit of security behind everything.
Yeah. Well, let's just see, shall we? Let's enjoy this beautiful July summer's day. It's bloody cold. I've got a t-shirt on. Let's carry on.
Let's keep looking.
And you know what? Regardless of whatever we decide, whatever happens, while we're doing it, it means we just get to explore these places anyway, doesn't it? So even in between work, we'd be out and about in the van doing different things anyway. So it's just an added bonus if there's a possibility for our future plans in there somewhere. And if there isn't and it doesn't work out, it means we've got to see somewhere new and go off travelling again, which is good.
We get to come to Scotland again. And
Yeah.
I like Scotland. So.
We do love Scotland, and it's nice to see that so we're going to explore a few places around the borderlands and go from there. And there's more flood defences going on over there. I mean, do we really want to move to somewhere? I'm not feeling Hoik anyway. Sorry Hoik, I'm sure you've got your charms, but it's not really grabbing me. But would we really want to move somewhere that's prone to flooding? Probably not. Stephen said, well, we'll just get a top floor flat. But yeah, you can still see that they're doing the work and it's ongoing all across the river. But the fact this was nearly empty last night shows how changeable it is. So we're back and we're making a move now onto our next Scottish border town.
Aye.
What did you think of Hoik, Steve?
It's all right. It's all right. I think it's probably suffered a lot from the floods, and I think that's probably damaged a lot of its kind of local economy and kind of tourism.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's really peaceful. It's really peaceful. There isn't a lot here, but it is peaceful.
Yeah, I'm not massively fussed, but I think there's you could see how it could be really nice. I think there's been a lot of neglect with some of the buildings and stuff, but that happens everywhere, so you know that's okay. It is very isolated, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either, depending on what you want. I'm not feeling it personally, but you know it's okay.
No, I think they just need a good whack of tourism to get themselves back on their feet a little
Yeah.
bit. Really. And they've obviously got the air here to try and help with that, to try and get the kind of passing trade. So if you are passing through, come to Hawick.
I mean, the thing is, I was just saying this to you earlier, I feel quite bad because we've stayed in the air and I feel like I want to put something back, but we were walking around, we walked around the town very briefly, we walked into the park and there was nothing I really wanted to buy. We'd had our breakfast, we're not ready to eat any lunch or anything, so it's a bit like, we're not going to do it for the sake of it, but it just feels like I really wanted to do something to support it. Now, we might come back to this area at some point, so perhaps we can go and get something for lunch at some point before we leave.
I mean, we did go in the museum and donate some money to the museum, albeit a little bit. And we did buy something in the shops, just a practical thing that we needed. So we have done something, but yeah, I know what you're saying, but if there's nothing there that you really want...
Yeah, you can't force it, I suppose.
And it's got to be well priced as well, you know, you're not going to overpay for something, are you? Just...
Aye. But you know what? The park, Wilton Lodge Park, which is just by the town, was quite nice to look around, and the museum was really, really interesting. And there's loads of stuff in there, and there's a war section as well. And it just, you know, when we're travelling around in a van, you're always reminded everywhere you go of World War I and II, and this just the impact it had and how it was absolutely everywhere and affected every person. And even this town, Hawick, in the middle of nowhere, kind of in the Scottish borders, and how every resident was affected. Men were called up to war. There was a whole list of names that had died in both wars, and the jobs the women did and what happened in the town. So yeah, it's really kind of sobering every time you visit these places that you think might not even be affected by the wars. At the time, almost everywhere was. So yeah, that was interesting to see. And there's also a huge sporting connection here as well. So we're not really into rugby, but there's a big rugby connection to Hawick. And also 2 motorsport cyclists. Sorry, I don't know the terminology. We're not into motorsport, but you had Jimmy Guthrie, who was here. He was born here, or he certainly lived here. And he had a massive funeral here when he died. And he was a big motorcyclist in the sport of motorcycling. Sorry, I can't remember the exact terminology. Almost 100 years ago, so he died in 1937. But also more recently, there was a motorcyclist called Steve Hislop, and again, if you're into the sport, you probably know who he is. He won lots of races, especially the Isle of Man races, really famous, and he died in a helicopter crash in 2003. He was about 40. So there's a whole section in the museum to both of these motorcyclists, which is really nice to see, and both of them were from Hawick. So yeah, big connection to sports here. And one other really bizarre fact about Hawick is the fact that the word tweed, where does it come from? Well, apparently it kind of originated here in a sense, but very much by accident. So a London cloth merchant allegedly received an invoice or something from one of the manufacturers in Hawick. So it was very much known for its knitwear and cashmere here at some point. It was a big industry, but not so much these days, although you still see the stalls about. So on this invoice, he mistook the word tweel, which is the Scottish word for twill, which refers to, again, a type of fabric, doesn't it, Steve? Or like cotton or something. And he mistook the word tweel for tweed, and that's how we ended up with tweed. So the word is kind of made up, but originated here entirely by accident, I think. Now, in the 1500s, there was something called the Battle of Flodden, where most of the men, a huge amount of Scottish men died, including most of the adult men from Hawick. And a year later, there was a raid that was about to happen from the English, and the people of Hawick got wind of it. Well, what happened? Well, most of the men had died, so a local group of youths kind of got together, and they went over to the English side. They got to them before they got to Hawick. They defeated them. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but they won effectively. They stole their flag, brought it back to the town, and the flag that they took from those potential raiders is now the emblem of Hawick. So you'll see it on various things around the town, and it's now their kind of logo, if you like. Anyway, I think that's quite enough gassing from me, don't you? So
Aye.
Let's make a move to our next Scottish border town.
Aye.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Well, we'll just film us wandering down the high street. There's, for lack of anything else right now, the inspiration isn't there. There's a bin. Stephen just walked into it. Well, that's got to be the worst vlog we've ever done on a place ever. Don't count it as real. It's not fair. It doesn't do the place justice, and I don't think it's fair. But look at that lovely scenery in the background.
Aye.
That's all around this. Well, that says it all. We've come back to the van. To be honest, there wasn't really much to see in the town. Stephen's not feeling brilliant, and you're feeling really tired, aren't you, at the moment? I'm feeling tired as well. I think, and especially after what's happened, as I said earlier, you know, we don't want to be pushing things. So if you're feeling like that, we stop, we go find somewhere to settle down, and go from there.
Yeah, I mean the town centre is really small, so there's not really much to film in there, and I can't be asked to go walking now.
No, it's too late in the day.
We have been walking around all day down Hoyk, so
yeah. My thoughts on this, like just to go back to why we're here, like we were looking around to potentially find a base. I'm not feeling it. So unless something was to change dramatically in this area, I don't think this is going to happen. I knew it was a bit kind of like pie in the sky, is that the term? I didn't think it was going to really be a realistic prospect. But it's kind of like, it's a long way from our work and family and stuff, and even that would be okay if it was worth it. But you know, we can't afford much. I just think it's probably not going to happen. So we might just have to forget this idea, pretend it never happened, and we'll just carry on in the van for a bit until until further notice, until something else. I don't know.
We're going to do that anyway.
Yeah.
But we were just looking in the meantime, really.
Yeah, that's all it was. Just like kind of looking, just poking about, just to see what's what. But yeah, I'm not sold on these areas. So yeah, sorry Scottish Borders at the moment. I'm sure you're fine, but I'm definitely not sold on it. For all the reasons we just said, which is not so much the areas, and more to do with us.
It's just too
things.
far.
Yeah,
it's just too far away, isn't it, for work?
We've still got other places to see, so we don't know yet for definite. But I think our budget just makes these things impossible. So. Let's just carry on. We're doing a little van thing. That's what we're doing. This is our home now. You know, I'd be sad to give this up. We wouldn't be giving it up anyway. The idea is to have both. Anyway, rambling. Shall we just move and settle down? Yeah. And you know, sitting here right now with Stephen driving, that brings up another point that we've talked about in the early days, but not so much since. Is the fact that I don't drive. I can't drive. I've never passed a test. I did take lessons once, but I don't like the idea of driving, and the only reason I took lessons is because I thought a job was going to come up that would require it, and then that job didn't materialise. So in the end I just, I didn't carry on with it because I don't feel comfortable driving. However, it has always been there. Stephen doesn't mind driving, and we try not to do it for extensive runs at a time most days, but if something was to happen, me not being able to drive and not being able to move the van does play on my mind. And Stephen says it's okay, and I guess most of the time it is. Chances are we'll be fine. And if push comes to shove, we could probably get some help, but it would just help if I could. Not so I can drive regularly because I don't like it, although I probably would if I passed my test, but just to help us out in a bind if I needed to move the van. When Stephen was in hospital, we'd just been to see his sister the night before, and we were visiting my mum. So my mum's got an absolutely tiny flat. There's no room to stay, you know what I mean? It's not even one bedroom really. And while Stephen was in hospital, I was kind of getting the bus back and forth, or sometimes walking, which was about an hour and a bit, and then just staying at my mum's. So it just kind of hammers home like the reality. If things go wrong, where do we go? What do we do? If without a base, it feels like we still want that and need that, but we're just not ready. We're just not at the point where we can at this point in time. But I don't know, maybe something will come up. As people have always said to us, and we've always said to ourselves, there's no point worrying about what might happen. I sit there going around thinking, what if I go walking, then I break my leg? What do we do then? Where am I going to go to recover while my leg's broken? Like, apart from when in hospital, but after that. Yeah, I don't know. You could go down this doom and gloom hole and nothing would happen. So that could happen in real life, couldn't it? But it's just one of the things that we've been thinking about, and is what's prompted us to look into having a more permanent base with the van. But if push comes to shove, we might have to stop and then get a permanent base, and then go back to our old lives of sorts. But hopefully that won't happen. Hopefully we can keep the van. It's all confusing. It's all if, buts and maybes, and most of it is just worry unnecessarily. So let's stop that now, shall we? Should we think of good things now, Stephen? Shall I talk about something positive? Maybe I should just not talk at all. Alright, I'll stop the camera, let's just stop. Well, I don't know about anyone else, but that's how I'm ending my day. Cheers. We haven't had red wine for ages. That's quite nice. Apparently it's the good alcohol for you, it's healthy. So maybe we'll stick to that from now on. Because then we'll be fine and our livers won't suffer at all, right, Steve? Everything will be alright if you drink red wine. But it is meant to be better for you than other drinks, apparently, for different reasons. So, I'm not gonna disagree with the experts. For tonight's dinner, we are having sweet potato curry. Now, I absolutely love this. Stephen doesn't mind it, but he cooked one a few weeks ago in Germany, and it was really, really nice. I think it was in Germany anyway, I can't remember now. But also, sweet potatoes are pretty good for you, and they're meant to be very good for blood pressure, which for Stephen right now is a good sign. So we're going to chop that up and get started. I think the cooking gets better the more wine you have. I think that's true. I'm sure it must be true. I read it somewhere.
It's just the wine.
No, I'm sure it must be true. Have a little bit more just to be sure. I've now broken the ring pull on the tin of coconut milk. Does anyone else do this? Does anyone else do it as often as we do? Because it seems to happen a lot. So if that ever does happen, please keep a tin opener, because it's the only way. How's your sweet potato curry, Steve?
It's really nice. This is really nice.
Anyway, I'm glad you like the curry. I think we're going to turn the camera off, aren't we, for the night?
Yeah, definitely.
And just settle down.
Yeah.
And see what tomorrow brings, which we have no idea.
No.
We'll see you in the morning.
Aye.
Morning, morning. And we're off again today. We're going to go to another Scottish Borders town. Our expectations aren't anything. We just thought we'd have a little look around. So we're going to... Where are we going, Steve?
The final Borders town we're going to look at in this video is Gala Shields.
We're going to Gala Shields, and the reason we say it like that, and Stephen says it in such an exuberant voice, is because we used to go to bingo when we lived in Maidstone. We'd regularly go to bingo. We had a period where we did that, and so many weeks somebody from Gala Shields would win, and it would be like, it always just sounded like a fun name, didn't it? The way they just shouted it out, like Stephen just said. I actually assumed, the way they said it, it made me think it was somewhere like near Newcastle, and I suppose it's not that far away from there. So yeah, we're going to go and have a look at Gala Shields and see what it's got.
Aye, let's go.
Let's go. So we've arrived in Gala Shields, and we're going to go on. It's started to rain, of course it has, but we're going to try and do a little bit of a walk that kind of goes around a hill, but nothing too strenuous. It lasts about an hour, so it should be all right. It looks fairly straightforward, and then we're going to have a little look around the town. In fact, I don't know what order we're doing it in, do you?
No.
I think we'll do the town first. But in the meantime, let's have a bit of lunch, or take the lunch with us, and we'll see what Gala Shields is like. Well, we just stopped for a bit of lunch, and we went in Old Gala House, which was really interesting. It was completely free. We left a donation, and there was art galleries in there and stuff, wasn't there? All sorts of history about the town. Really nice. And the house, we quite like. I mean, we haven't seen much of it, and you know, don't get us wrong, we're not like bowled over, but we kind of like Gala Shields, I think. Don't you think?
Yeah, it feels nice.
I don't mind it. It feels, compared to the last two towns we were in, this one is giving us much better feelings. Like we really kind of feel more drawn to it, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Which is not to slag off the other towns, it's just like we feel like so far we prefer this one. However, we've barely had a look, so you know, we could easily change our mind on that. But let's have something to eat and carry on looking. we just had a little look round Gala Shields. You know what? I'm really impressed. Do you?
Yeah, I like it.
I like it. We both like it. I wasn't expecting that. I think we've just got a really good feeling from it, and all right, you know, it's still got the same struggles as any town, but what's new? That's everywhere. And the reality is, are we going to really be able to do that? We don't know. Are we really going to want to have a base this far north? We don't know. Is our budget even going to be able to do anything? We don't know. So, you know, it's all if, buts and maybes, but I like Gala Shields.
It's definitely worth knowing that this is somewhere that would be an option.
Yes, it feels like a potential future option somewhere down the line. Like, add to a list, lock it away, and if we ever decided something at one point, that's one of those ideas that feels like a real prospect, doesn't it? It's like, oh, I like it here, you know? Okay, well, we're going to have a little wander now. We're going to do a walk up onto something called Gala Hill, I think it is, but it's not too bad, so don't worry, Steve. And it has some views over the town, I think. Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's surrounded by some really pretty walks and countryside as well. So let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. Walking around Gala Hill. I don't know if we get a better view on the way round, but in case we don't, we thought we'd do a little bit here now. But yeah, it's just, you know, the thought of imagining us living in here, I can picture it, can you?
Yeah, it'd be nice.
I can imagine it. I don't, this is probably not going to happen, but you know.
Even if we did, we would still carry on. It would just be a case of having somewhere to go back to when we needed to.
Yeah, it's just what we've always wanted, really. So it's probably not going to happen, but it's just a nice idea. You know, I think anyone can say the same, can't they? That if you had the pick of the crop, like where you wanted to live, would you put Gala Shields at the top? Almost certainly not, you know. But it does seem quite nice, and the fact it seems something that we could live in potentially affordably. Oh, I don't know what I'm saying now. But it's an idea. It's a nice idea.
It's a nice place. Definitely, if this was closer to home, then we wouldn't bat an eyelid.
No.
We wouldn't.
As long as it was still the same prices. Because if it was closer to home, it wouldn't be affordable.
This kind of place at this price, nearer to, you know, family and whatever.
Yeah.
You know, we'd jump at it. But we'll see.
No, it's an idea. I don't know. It's just
something.
There's something about it. Yeah, it's something just to leave in the thought bank and just kind of like, could we do it? And you know, I didn't have much hope with these Scottish border towns, but this one, yeah, I've got a good feeling about. So, you know, you never know.
Aye.
Never know. Let's go. Well, we just got back to the van, we had a bit of dinner, and we've got one last thing to do in Gala Shields, haven't we, before we head off. And we haven't done this for a long time. So what are we doing, Stevie?
We're going to the cinema.
We're going to the cinema. We're having a bit of a cinema date. So that's where we're off to. They've got a little local cinema, which we quite like. I always love them. Yeah, we're going to go to the cinema. How nice, how exciting. I haven't done that for ages. And that's why we were saying earlier about going to see the Tapestry of Scotland. It was about £10.50 each to get into that, but the cinemas are tenner each as well. And we were like, let's do one or the other. And we both wanted to go to the cinema, didn't we? So that'll be a nice thing to finish the day. So that's where we're going. But we're not going to film that because that would be like, I was going to say fraud or something. No, what's the word? Pirating. We're not allowed. It'll be a crime. So that's it, really.
Yep, so now we're going to end the video here.
Yep.
Please like, subscribe, push the
Press.
notification bell. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget pushing like is important.
Yeah.
Subscribing. And we'll see you on the next one.
Yep, so we don't quite know where we're going after this video, but you'll see next week. So yeah, that's it. All right, thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.